So I know people who have been eating what they think is a ketogenic diet for months, but they're not in ketosis. They're not making ketones. They're not losing weight. They're basically eating a diet that, they believe is keto, but they're not seeing the benefits. So let me ask you this. Have you tried keto before and never really knew whether or not you were in ketosis? Or are you eating keto right now and you're not sure if you're making ketones? Maybe you've bought those ketone strips, right? But the color never changed, or you're testing your blood ketones and you're not seeing a zero point 0.5. If that is you, this video is for you. Okay. Today, I'm going to show you how to tell if your keto diet is actually working for you. And you're going to learn what ketosis is and what fat adaptation is. You're going to learn what to test, what signs matter the most. And we're going to keep going with our keto reset. So if you've been with me the last few weeks, we have been going through a reset challenge. If you have not been following along, you're just finding this video today, go back a couple of videos, my live videos. We are in a keto reset, helping you figure out how to get into ketosis in a simple, repeatable way. Okay. So in the last video, we talked about why eating all day keeps your insulin high and blocks fat burning. So today we're going to make sure that the switch is actually flipping and we are getting into that fat burning zone. Okay. So as usual, I have some slides. We're going to pop those up and we're going to get into it. All right. So what does it mean to be fat adapted? What does it mean to be in ketosis? We're going to go through that today. So being in ketosis means that you are producing ketones, right? You're making ketones. Your liver has started producing them because your carbs are low enough and your insulin is low. Fat adapted means that you are using fat and ketones for energy, and you're using it well. Your cells are now used to running on this alternative fuel, and you can feel a difference in your energy and in your hunger. So here is a simple way to picture it, right? So I have a bunch of tools in my garage. They're really my husband's tools, but they're my tools, right? We have a bunch of tools in our garage, and most of them I have never used. And I probably have no clue how to use them. Ketosis is like owning the tools, right? Being fat adapted is having the skill to use those tools smoothly. It's like having a really sharp kitchen knife, right? You can own a kitchen knife on day one, but it's going to take lots of practice before you can chop really fast and clean and confident, right? So that's exactly what's happening in your body. So you can start producing ketones really quickly, but it's going to take time for your cells, for your mitochondria to get used to using them, get good at using them. So next we're going to get into like what are ketones, what are the tests you can use to actually measure so you know that you are making ketones, right? And how you can tell whether or not you're moving from just making ketones to running on them. Okay, so quick one-on-one on ketones. So your body makes three types of ketone bodies. So number one is acetoacetate. This is the first one that your liver makes. The second one is beta hydroxybutyrate. This is the main one that circulates in your blood. It is the one that people measure when they're using a blood ketone meter. And then the third one is acetone, and that one can show up on your breath. So here is why this all matters. So if you use those urine strips, right, you are mostly testing the acetoacetate. If you're using a blood ketone meter, you're testing beta hydroxybutyrate. If you're using one of those breath devices, you are picking up on the acetone in your breath. So if you've ever wondered, why is it that my urine strips say one thing and my blood meter, right, my ketone blood meter says something else? Well, this is the reason. They're not measuring the same ketone. Okay. One more thing, and early on, when you're testing on those urine strips, those can be really helpful in the beginning because they can show you that you are making ketones. But then later on, those strips will start getting lighter, even if what you're doing is the right thing, because your body starts using those ketones more efficiently instead of dumping them out in your pee. All right, something to keep in mind. So, how do you know if your diet is actually working for you? So, this is what I like to do. For first thing you would do is you would grab some of those cheap urine ketone strips that I was talking about, right? They are usually under about $10. And in the beginning of getting into ketosis, they are a great way to see, okay, is my body starting to produce ketones, right? It's a great indicator. And again, you're mostly testing acetoacetate with those strips. So you'll start seeing a color change, right? As you get into the next phase of this reset that we're going to do, you're going to see the color on the strip change to a pinkish color, right? So the next step is to check with your blood ketone meter. Now, if you don't want to buy a blood ketone meter right away, but you already have a blood glucose monitor, you can still learn a lot this week without having to go out and purchase that blood ketone meter. So you would be checking your fasting glucose first thing in the morning. And we've been doing that all week. So that's something I want you to continue doing. You want to see your blood glucose in the morning, your fasting blood glucose trending downward or under 100 over time, right? That is a good sign that your blood sugar is getting more stable. And it's an indicator that your body may not be needing as much insulin in the background. And that is what's going to help you to start burning fat and start making ketones. Okay. And we're not going to stress over a random morning. If one morning, it goes up above 100, we're not going to freak out about that. We're looking at trends, right? So check out the trends across the week. So the second thing you're going to do, because the urine strips are not something that you can use forever, right? As your body gets more efficient, it's going to stop wasting those ketones out in your urine. So your strip might start getting lighter and lighter, less pink, right? Even if you are doing a great job with your diet. So that's when a blood ketone meter becomes really useful. So you can use a blood ketone meter like the Keto Mojo. That's the one that I recommend. And you are measuring, again, beta hydroxybutyrate. So a common range for nutritional ketosis is about 0.5 on your ketone meter to about 3. Okay, once you hit 0.5, you are in the zone. Anything below that, not in ketosis. Anything at it or above it, ketosis, right? And then a quick safety note, because if you have diabetes or you're on insulin, and you end up with very high ketones, like 9, that's a different issue, right? So if you have high ketones and high blood sugar at the same time, that is a medical emergency and you need medical care, right? Nutritional ketosis is not that, right? So we are going to look for a range between 0.5 and 3. It can go up to 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, right? But we're not going to see super high like 9 and then high blood sugars as well. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So your big takeaway is you can use the cheap strips in the beginning for a simple, yes, I'm making ketones or no. And then you can use your blood glucose meter to look for lower blood sugars, fasting blood sugars. And then if you decide to use a blood ketone meter, you're looking for a healthy nutritional range between 0.5 to 3, and we're not chasing the highest number. That's not the goal. Okay. All right. So let's get into the signs that that you are becoming fat adapted. Numbers are very helpful, but the whole point of fat adaptation is we want our bodies to start acting differently, right? So here are some clues that things are changing. The first one is that the hunger noise gets quieter. You're not thinking about food all the time, right? It's not like I have to have a snack every 2 hours, and you can go from meal to meal without getting shaky or feeling irritable or hangry. The second thing is that your cravings are going to calm down, especially in the later afternoon. And that those nighttime snack cravings that you may have, those should go away and you should feel more confident around your food. Number 3 is that your energy will start to get a bit steadier. So you're not going to have that crash that happens post meal or feeling like you need caffeine to kind of push through the day. And then number 4 is your brain is going to start feeling a bit clearer, right? People will start to notice less brain fog, more stable focus once their body starts using fat and ketones more efficiently. And then your workouts will start feeling better, right? There's often a dip. So when you start working out and getting into ketosis and becoming fat adapted, you might feel a little weaker, you might feel a little slower, but stick with it. And once you adapt, it's going to feel smoother. It's going to be easier because you'll have that consistent fuel source. So pay attention to those signals this week. Fat adaptation is not just a number. We're looking for our bodies feeling more stable, more balanced. All right. So becoming a fat burner, this is a bit of a recap from last time where we talked about how we are sugar burners. We have been sugar burners and the reason why we're sugar burners and not fat burners, right? So what it means to be fat adapted. So when you're eating a lot of carbs or you're snacking all day long, your main fuel source is the glucose, right? So your insulin is going to stay high. Your body is in fat storage mode. It's storing energy and it's not pulling much from your fat stores. When you cut those carbs and you keep your insulin lower, your body finally gets the permission to start releasing fat from your fat cells. So that fat will go into your bloodstream and become your fuel, right? Second, your liver will start making the ketones from the fat. And those ketones are another clean fuel that your brain and your muscles can use for energy. So this is the part that takes time, right? Your cells, especially your muscles, have to get better at using the ketones as fuel. So they start building more of the machinery, the equipment that helps them burn fat. They're going to increase the transporters that will pull the fat into your cell. They're going to increase the enzymes that break down fat for energy. Your mitochondria, the little powerhouses, little power plants inside your cells, those have to adapt as well. And they're going to get better at fat burning and ketone burning efficiently. And then over time, your body will actually burn more mitochondria. So that's the reason why your first few days of being in ketosis and trying to become fat adapted, it feels rough because your body doesn't really know yet what to do, right? It's not used to it. But once a few weeks go by and your body starts recognizing, okay, this is the fuel that I'm giving it, you're giving me, it starts to feel steady. You're going to notice you're not as hungry anymore. And that's a sign that your cells are becoming more efficient as using fat for fuel. Okay. So how long does it take? And this is where people might get discouraged because we want everything to be quick. But getting into nutritional ketosis can happen in a few days once your carbs are low enough and you're consistent, right? Some people, it happens very, very quickly. So producing ketones can happen fast, but fat adaptation is different. It usually takes somewhere between 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. It could take for some people a month or even longer, especially if you have been insulin resistant for a long time. Okay. So if this is the week that you make the shift, because this is the week that we're going to make the shift into eating keto all day, and you're wondering, well, how come I don't feel amazing? The keto diet's supposed to be so amazing. Why don't I feel amazing yet? That is normal because your body has to learn this new fuel system. Okay. So remember, we're going to track it without obsessing. You have option one, your ketone strips. It's great in the first week or two for a simple binary yes, no. I'm in ketosis or I'm not, right? And then the second option, again, is their blood glucose meter. If you have one of those already, you're looking for trending downward over time under 100 in the morning. And then option three, which I think is the best way, is to actually just test your blood ketones. So you don't need to test your blood all the time. Once a day is plenty. I think testing it in the evening, you've had a full day of eating a keto meal. By the time you get to the evening, you should be in ketosis if you've been eating all day. So I would test it at night, maybe before you go to bed. Or you could just wait and do it in the morning. But the longest period of time of eating low carb, obviously you want to give your body more time. So this first week, I'm going to get into that on the next couple of slides. But in this first week, you have been eating a low carb or keto breakfast, keto lunch, but your dinner has been whatever you normally eat. This week, we're going to be shifting that up. So every meal will be a 3-to-1 fat to protein ratio, right? So by the end of the first day, maybe you might see some ketones. So you could test at the end of the day. All right, so let's take a look at the plan. So again, you're going to hit a 3-to-1 fat to protein ratio for breakfast, for lunch, and now for dinner. So this week we're focusing on making sure our dinner matches. And we can do the same types of meals that we were doing, right? You want to have building each meal around protein, where you might have about 20 to 25 grams of protein. Remember, you don't want to have too much protein, because if you have too much protein, you could kick yourself out of ketosis due to gluconeogenesis. We don't want that to happen. So we're staying on the safe side for now and keep it about 20 grams of protein. If you're a much bigger person, you might need a little bit more. But if you are somewhere, or your goal weight is somewhere in the 140s, 150s, 160s, you should be more than fine with about 20 grams of protein max. And then you want to add 3 times as many grams of fat to that. Okay. And then we talked about healthy fats. If you have not seen the previous videos, go back and watch them, because I talk about what kinds of fats to use. Let's see. And then you want to make sure that you don't snack after dinner. So we're going to close the kitchen after dinner. So say sunset, 6 p.m., something around there. You can have water, you can have electrolytes, you can drink, tea, but no snacking after dinner. Okay. And you're going to notice you have amazing sleep. So you can come back and tell me how great your sleep is on those nights that you don't eat past 6 o'clock. Let me know. And then I want to be very, very clear here that this is the week that you're most likely to feel dehydration and low electrolytes, because you are going to be in ketosis more consistently. So you need to stay on top of your salt, your potassium, your magnesium, your fluids. So if you were doing your Ultima electrolytes, you're going to have a few scoops of that throughout the day. Okay. And then I want you to remember to take your multivitamin. So a lot of you will eat less food this week and have less variety than you're used to. And you don't want your nutrition to suffer while you're dialing in how to get into ketosis. So make sure you take your multivitamin. And then number 4 is you're going to track 2 signs from today's list. You can track your hunger, you can track your energy, you can track your blood ketones. Track 2 different things. Check a few times this week if you're using, the ketone strips. Those can be a little bit expensive, blood ketones, but try to track it at least a few times this week. Look for trends and see if you're moving in the right direction and you're producing those ketones. So I want you to comment down below and tell me, what have you been struggling with as it comes when it comes to getting into ketosis? Ask me your questions so that I can, answer them and use that to shape the next video in our series. So I hope you have a beautiful week and you feel amazing. And I'll see you next time. Bye.